Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matt. Happy to be here today and sharing a little bit about this new program. Can everybody see the screen okay? Thumbs up. Amazing. All right. So Kiva, Iowa. Can I see a show of hands? Has anybody heard of Kiva? Okay, that's something I've heard about. Is anybody on this call a lender of Kiva? Okay, so maybe not even sure what that is. Let's talk about it. All right. So Kiva is a brand new program here in the state of Iowa, but it is something that has existed for quite a while. And in short, it's really designed to help diverse and vibrant businesses, small business owners and entrepreneurs all around Iowa access affordable capital and some additional small business resources. Oh, let's see. Okay. So this is a program that's been around since 2005, and it was a global, there's a global emphasis. So it was actually not in the US, it was not offered in the US until about 5 years ago. But essentially it is a microlending platform. So it allows folks to access capital up to $15,000 with zero fees, zero interest, and it's all kind of community-backed loans. So it's a social impact, social good component to it. That really makes this unique and stand out from other sources of funding that may exist. There is actually 2 million lenders associated with Kiva, so that is globally. Those are folks like you or me, friends that you might know, where you are able to give to these small business owners for as little as $25. So what you would do is you would hop on, you would kind of look at these small business owner stories, and you would say, hey, here's one that seems really interesting to me. I'm going to give $25 to support this business owner. As an example, and I'll dive into this more, I've given to a gentleman in Phoenix who was running a woodworking business out of his garage and hoping to someday own a shop. I have given to a couple here locally. I will share those. I gave to a gentleman who was running a theater out of St. Louis for kids after school program. I gave to a produce stand somewhere in the state of Kansas. So it's really all over the place, and you'll see all different types of business connected to this platform. This is what it looks like if you take a global, kind of zero out globally. As I mentioned, number of borrowers, kind of the number of countries involved. Kind of this is how it is made possible, is by all of these different components across the globe. And then zoning in on the US piece, this is the amount of loans, 45.1 million, that have been crowdfunded in the US already in the last 5 years. And there's about 1,500 cities that have been lent to. That being said, there are about 55 different hubs. And what that is, so those of you who aren't familiar with NewBoCo, we are an organization that's located in the Cedar Rapids area, and we're really focused on entrepreneurship, innovation, and technical education programming. And so we have been designated a hub owner or a hub partner. So what that means is Kiva, this national foundation, this global foundation, says, hey, we're going to work with these different entities all across the US. We're going to designate as hub partners, and they're going to help facilitate this loan process in their respective communities. So we were designated the hub partner for the state of Iowa, which is actually the first statewide hub partner. And that means that we're servicing loans all across the state of Iowa. That's every corner of the state that will be impacted by this and will be able to access this program. So one thing that, we keep in mind is dreams are universal, opportunity is not. This is something that Kiva, a big philosophy of Kiva, because the whole purpose behind this is to make financing super inclusive, right? So it can be pretty daunting for folks to walk into a financial institution and access a traditional bank loan. Sometimes that's not even an option for folks, depending on a number of different factors. And then if you take women-owned business, minority-owned business, lower-income entrepreneurs, there's even more barriers that exist there when accessing financing. So this is a really neat way to kind of offer that and break down those barriers, and in that inclusivity piece is kind of at the core of this program. So here are all the different communities that are connected through Kiva. So over here you have the the organization. So this would be NewBoCo, the city government bank, community orgs that run the local programs, right? And then this is who we're connected to. We are reaching out to borrowers. These are entrepreneurs, small business owners who have some sort of a business that they're looking to grow. So that's anywhere from maybe a beauty shop where they want to add additional products to their product line, to a food truck that is hoping to repair, a commercial piece of equipment, whatever that might be. Those are kind of the borrowers piece. And then there are kind of taking it even further around here. There are people within the community that are lending. So as I mentioned, minimum of $25. You can lend to these entrepreneurs, these small businesses that are stationed right in your community. And I have to mention lend, right? So this is not a donation. A lot of people are familiar with GoFundMe or crowdfunding. This is very different, and that these entrepreneurs and small business owners are connected to this nonprofit entity. There are zero fees involved. So you as the lender, when you're giving the money to the business, it's going directly to the business. There's no fees taken out. Again, it's a nonprofit. These entrepreneurs and small business owners are vetted to make sure they're a good fit for the program, that they're able to pay back the loan. And that means that you are repaid. So if you give $25, over the course of 1, 2, or 3 years, that money will be paid back to you by the entrepreneur. And then you can actually recycle that money on the platform and give it to another business. So it's this really awesome revolving loan kind of process where, again, social impact driven, community backed. And so again, here, local philanthropists, funders, other institutions can get involved in supporting these businesses. And then there's also a component called trustees, and that is businesses like, let's say, ICAD, right? Let's say they're familiar with a business owner in your community, and they could say, hey, I want to endorse this borrower on the platform. So the ICAD logo would be on their profile. They could write a little bit of snippet of this is why this business is credible. This is why we support them. And so there's other ways for kind of community organizations and other partners of ours to get involved and be really invested in this process. On the borrower side, what makes you eligible? Well, you have to be over 18. We actually just funded a 19-year-old. So that's really awesome. If you're thinking about student populations, you should make sure that students are aware of this in the different entrepreneurial programs. Using it for business purposes, can't just like buy a car. This is very much like to grow and expand your business. It has to be based in the US. In this case, if you're facilitated through our organization, it has to be based here in Iowa. And, there's some different things like hemp-related products, illegal activities, gun sales, that sort of thing. They kind of stay away from that. And other things, can't be in foreclosure, have active bankruptcy. You could have experienced bankruptcy in the past, but it can't actively be in bankruptcy. And then, there's a handful of other eligible criteria that, you can check out, and I'll provide those links and maybe a follow-up email after this presentation. I apologize. There's a lot of construction happening outside of my house. I will talk louder if it's loud. I'm not going to go through this specifically line by line, but this just gives you a sense of how this works. And Jessica might dive into this a little bit further, but the total borrower process is about 45 days. So the application, if you have all of your pieces together, you're going to tell your story, you're going to upload a photo, you're going to put some of your personal and financial information in there. It could take about an hour. Then I'm working with the borrower to make sure they have all the pieces together. We send it for final review. And once it is approved, let's say you asked for $10,000 and they say, let's start with $8,000. You can accept the terms, and then fundraising begins. So as a borrower, make sure you're ready to go. And because right when you accept is actually when it begins. And then you have 45 days to fundraise this loan. We suggest that the borrowers are actively involved in that process. They don't want to just sit back and wait for it to crowdfund. If you have social media channels, you have networks of people, it's great to be putting that out there and spreading the word. And that's what our organization will be doing too. Social media, newsletters, various partners across the state will be publicizing your story and your business. And that first 15 days, so there's 2 chunks of it, 45 days total, 15 days is private, 30 days is public. What that means is before you go into the public fundraising and you have access to those 2 million lenders, you need to, get a handful of friends, families, clients, neighbors, coworkers on board for $25 minimum, just to kind of show the credibility of the business, make sure that you have a community around you. So I can work with borrowers to understand that process and figure out the best way to move that forward. And then here's some faces of our borrowers so far. So this kicked off, I think, late June. And we have had these, 3 of these are fully funded. 1 is in private fundraising right now, and we actually have another gentleman in private fundraising. But really exciting to see an array of businesses, including, we'll hear more about this today, but creative design piece. We have this guy in the upper right-hand corner, Aaron, is 3D printing trains and train parts, and he builds locomotives and would like to someday own his own shop. We have the Tene in the left in the corner of the screen. She is out of Sioux City, Iowa, and she runs a beauty salon for ethnic-based hair and hair products. And so she is expanding her space. And then Alex in the right-hand corner, if you're interested in giving to her private fundraising, please send your information my way. I'll send you the private link. But Alex is, it's called Visor Vanity, and it's actually a device that sits up in your visor of your car, so you can do makeup application and other things in your car with nice lighting. She's repurposed this product and distributed it over the last 2 years and has done quite well. So really excited. She's actually been approved for 15,000, the max. So really fun to see all of these come through. We have a farmer in the queue who is doing some egg-based, more specifically, we have a winery component, and we have someone who is actually growing their farming operation. So all across the board, really cool to see these stories come forward. And again, all pockets of the state so far that we're seeing represented. So if you know a borrower, please send them our way. If you know if you'd like to be a lender, it's pretty easy. Just hop on and you can support these businesses as they crowdfund. And you may even get addicted like I am. And now I start my day by reading these borrower stories, and they're so compelling, and it's so wonderful to see all these amazing things happening throughout the US, not just here in Iowa. So here's my information if you want to get in touch, iowa@local.kiva.org. You can apply for a loan using that link, and you can actually go to our NewBoCo website, newbo.co/Kiva, to learn more about the program here in Iowa. And on that note, I won't take up any more time. We could probably do some Q&A at the end, but I wanted pitch it over to Jessica so she can showcase, being a part of this process and the product that she has so wonderfully designed as a result of this funding. So if you want to screen share, Jessica, I'll let you take it from here.
And thank you, Caitlin. Yeah, I look forward to a discussion after, and this is going to be, I'm really looking forward to Jessica's presentation.
You bet. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. And just as I got an alert, my internet connection may be unstable, so it popped up right before I started speaking. So just in case I freeze for whatever reason. But again, as Caitlin mentioned, my name is Jessica Paisley, and I am the founder and lead editor of Amidst Magazine. Essentially, the magazine, we kicked off early this year. We became an LLC in January, and the past 6 months have been the magazine basically going live. So we have 3 parts to the magazine. The first part is the print, which is where we use the Kiva loan. And I had a copy to bring to show with you this morning, and someone actually purchased it at my meeting before this. So it was a good problem to have. But I will, when I do my screen share, I'll show you some visuals for it as well. But the concept is having a print magazine that comes out twice a year, and it's sharing the stories of Midwest creatives. So really kind of expanding the definition of what being a creative in the Midwest means, and sharing a variety of stories. Our magazine is, we're working on trying to keep it as inclusive as possible. It is bilingual in both English and in Spanish. And our tagline for Amidst overall is where the Midwest meets art, beauty, culture, design, fashion, film, music, photography, and all things creative. So that's, really the concept. And this came from, pre-COVID, I was doing something really similar. I'm actually based out of Dubuque, Iowa, and visiting here in Iowa City today, and just really excited to have everybody here and be part of it. But I was doing it on a small local level. And when COVID hit, I kind of joke, I had a very expensive beta test because I had a local magazine that I was working on, and January 2020 went well, February 2020 went well, and then March 2020, I was kind of stuck with a product that nobody would touch. And I had created something called a capsule magazine, which is literally just the cover, and then the rest of the content was online. And it really taught me that people want both, but not necessarily together. So that's how, taking that hiatus and pivoting like everybody did, was really a way to figure out what the magazine needed to be. So amidst, as in Midwest, so among others in the Midwest, is how that came to be born. And again, as I mentioned with the print, we've only had that for about a month now. We've had it in hand for about a month. Our first issue, we printed 1,000. About half of those have been spoken for already, which is really exciting. And we did kind of our soft launch in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is where the cover model, the cover designer, and the cover photographer were from. And oh, so thank you, Caitlin. She can hold it up for me. I know she has a copy. I have about 50 in my car, but of course, would sell the one right before coming here. But the concept is, again, the magazine it's all story, it's all content. And there are no ads. We do have sponsorship opportunities where each issue is sponsored, but it's really not taken over with advertising. And it's really either it's self-submitted pieces, or we had the opportunity, we had 3 amazing interns from the University of Iowa over the summer. Thank you, Katie, for connecting with me with that. And we had these amazing interns over the summer that were helping us write. So you'll see some of those in there as well. And along with this first print, we also have, that goes hand in hand, the digital magazine. So digital magazine, which I'm going to share my screen now so they can see. I'm going to change that for a second. But with our digital magazine, we actually have it's more like the weekly articles. So I'm really excited about how this has been kind of transitioning for us, because it gives us an opportunity to do a lot more than what we would be able to do if we were just doing a print. So here it is. So if you would go to amidstmagazine.com, you would land basically on our digital magazine. And, we kind of talk about what we use the Kiva loan for. So Kiva helped us actually get our first print and cover those costs. We received $8,500 to help with those upfront print costs and shipping and all those kind of unforeseen things that came through. And with our digital magazine, I really foresee us using Kiva as an option down the road to do kind of a redo on our website, because right now it's working really well for us, but I feel like we're already quickly outgrowing it. So as you can see on here, we have different articles. Every week we do a different article that is typically self-submitted through creatives throughout the Midwest. And we talk about being amidst and experiencing amidst. So this is where you can go through the experience. So one, for example, again, this was one of my favorite stories, but Native Visions. This designer is based out of Minnesota and submitted their story, and I was actually able to see them at Fashion Week Minnesota, which is where we did our soft launch for the first print. So we've had some really amazing experiences with everybody who's been involved, and really we've only promoted ourselves on social media and then through our partnership with NewBoCo, and we have received, it's almost too much to keep up with. It's a good problem to have, and in the very near future we'll be needing somebody to help me do the editing process. So the third part of Amidst is a creatives community. So we actually have a community called Amidst Creatives of the Midwest, where it's a platform. So we really knew that the magazine itself, having this hub for creatives to be able to share their story, where the digital and print are more like outward facing, this creatives community is where the people who are submitting their work or are interested in connecting and having just relationships with other creatives throughout the Midwest can come here and connect with one another. So we have about 50 members right now. And again, we haven't really been promoting it, but now that we have all 3 pieces in place, we're really going to start pushing this information out there. We have monthly speakers, monthly industry expert speakers, and we actually have our next speaker at 10 a.m. this morning. So right after this call. So if anybody's interested in attending that, you're more than welcome to. You can see a list of some of our members that are involved in the community. And then when they go through, they actually get connected to the welcome process, introduce yourself, here's the resource hub. And the one thing that's unique about, I would say, this platform, there is an app that you can use, but we do different monthly conversations, and whereas Creative Energy, share things that inspire you, calls for talent. So I always use the example because in my former life, I did a lot of fashion styling and I still do here and there, but like costume design, for example, for independent films. Iowa has a lot of independent films. So posting something in here saying, okay, might be shooting in Des Moines and we need extras for this event or whatever it is. There's so many different ways to use this. We also record all of our presentations, our monthly speakers, so that people can go back and watch them if they missed them. And then really different ways to helping people submit to the magazine. There's a lot of opportunity here. And we had a great group of 10 that helped us get it started and basically found this. And they've been just absolutely amazing. One other thing I wanted to share really quickly was just our social media. So our social media is really focused on, you can see the magazine here. We have one of our first stockists. We're going to be having the magazine distributed throughout the Midwest, working with independent bookstores and areas where people can purchase it. Right now it's available online. So it's available on our website, amidstmagazine.com, which again is kind of the host for the digital magazine and then also purchasing our products. But our social media really helps give a glimpse of kind of who is part of the magazine, what stories we're telling, and then how to submit. Anything specifically, Caitlin, that you wanted me to share about Kiva or my experience there? I just want to give an overview of the magazine in itself.
Yeah, I feel like something would come up if we, leave it open to some questions and such.
Mhm.
We may both have different perspectives on the process and that sort of thing. And it's nice that we have kind of both sides represented. So yeah, I'm open to discussion or whatever you'd prefer.
Yeah, I would say let's just open it up to questions on both Kiva from what Caitlin had talked about and Jessica, everything with the admits. And what I want to say to both of you is both of these are super exciting. So thank you so much for sharing. I know I was resisting the urge to go to my Chrome browser and start looking at the websites you were bringing up to start playing around with those. So I know I'll be going there later today. But I guess one of the questions that I have might be, Jessica, going through this process, what would your recommendation be as a creative or somebody that received some funding for others that might be going down this path? Like, what do you know now that you didn't know then that you think would be helpful for folks?
Well, I think you always have kind of an idea of what things are going to cost. Get estimates, get things prepared ahead of time so that way you know exactly kind of what you're getting yourselves into. We had a really good idea. We worked with a great company in Dubuque, Union Herman, that did all of our printing for us, and actually the cover of the magazine soft touch. So we had to send that to Cedar Rapids to have this kind of specialty feature done. But there are things that come up, and really like planning ahead and knowing exactly. And even if you don't get the funding, I think I applied for 10 and we received 8,500. And so just even with something like that, knowing, okay, this is still going to cover the majority of what our costs are, and then just giving yourself, okay, where additional funding is going to be if you do happen to need it. But the process was amazing. That Caitlin walked me through every step of the way. I actually I had found out about Kiva prior to meeting her and just heard about it, but didn't think I was eligible for it because I didn't realize it was in Iowa. And I attended EntreFest and walked in on one of the presentations, and Caitlin was just finishing up kind of her announcing it. And after seeing that, I took the flyer and reached out, and that's how I became the first lender, our first borrower.
Thank you so much. I wanted to see what other questions folks might have for either Jessica or Caitlin.
Yeah, I'll start things off. First off, great presentation from both of you. I loved both of them, hearing about the program. I think I encountered it like years ago and I was like, this is such a cool program. So I'm glad that it's arrived in Iowa. And Jessica, your magazine looks beautiful too. So great job.
Yeah.
My question is there a minimum that someone can ask for? I know you said the maximum is 15,000, but like, is there an amount, like, could someone ask for like $500? Or is it like you need to have a significant amount that'll be used, in a longer term project?
You can request any amount. I think the lowest request that we've had so far is 1,500. So it's really just specifying what are you using that loan for, and making that case in the loan use description segment. So, for example, one business, it was COVID precautions, continued, whatever that might be in their space to sanitize and that sort of thing. And so that's a lower cost, I mean, probably not $10,000, but in that case, it was, $1,000, I think was actually maybe the lowest requested. But, and so, yeah, it kind of looks different for everybody. And like Jessica said, I would say request the amount that you think you could use, and maybe like even then a little bit more, and expect that you could be approved for a little bit less. It really depends on a lot of different factors, how long you've been in operation, your projected revenues, that sort of thing, your ability to repay. So there is a debt to income ratio piece to it to make sure that depending on your ability we don't want to put someone in a financial predicament, right? So making sure that you have the ability to make payments each month. So there's a lot of different factors, but I would say really come into it thinking big and thinking, if you were to really think about the next 5 years of growth, what does that look like to you, and how could this really help propel you? And as I mentioned in the comments, and Jessica also alluded to, you can fundraise as many times as you want. If you're successful and you repay the loan, you can actually hop on and fundraise multiple times. So as you continue to grow your business, you can access this zero interest loan as many times as you want. The ideal scenario is that, you're kind of building this business credit, and then at some point you can go to a financial institution and say, hey, look at this amazing success I've had with this Kiva program. I'm a great candidate at this point in this stage of my business to access a more traditional route of funding. So looks different for everybody, but yep, I would say max 15,000, minimum, whatever that might be to you. So up to 15.
That's great. Thank you. And then I can't remember the exact word you used, but you said like someone like iCAD could kind of endorse a business. What does that really mean? Is it like a financial commitment from us, or is it just like, we vetted this, we support them, we encourage you to donate? Can you provide specifics about that?
You bet. So it is really just ensuring that there are different community partners that are familiar with the businesses. For the lender side of things, it puts a little bit more trust in that candidate and their ability to repay. If there's someone endorsing them and saying, hey, I vouch for this individual, I vouch for this business, we're familiar with them, that sort of thing. So an example is on the agriculture side of things, and this is actually something that came about after Jessica. We weren't even totally familiar with the trustee process. So Jessica had great success without a trustee, but going on into the future, it's great if someone is linked to some sort of a mentor. So right now, someone that is in review is in agriculture, as I mentioned, it is a farmer, and they have worked with an organization called Feed Iowa First here at Cedar Rapids. And so that organization would say, hey, we're familiar with this farmer. We, over the past year, this is what our relationship has looked like. And I think it's only 250 characters that you get to endorse them on their application, but it's a pretty swift process. As the trustee, you just create a trustee profile and you can access it at any time if you want to recommend someone. That being said, let's say iCAD creates an account, takes 5 minutes, and they don't put through any sort of endorsement in the first year. Totally fine. You can just be registered as a certified trustee through our Iowa base here, and you might have 5 endorsements a year, you might have 0. So it looks different for everybody, but it's good to just have it established so that if someone comes through from your co-working space or at Merge, for example, you can easily hop on and help expedite the process. Also, having that endorsement on the Kiva side of things during the review process gives you more credibility as the borrower, and tends to bump your ability to fundraise for more money. So let's say you've asked for 10,000, I think Jessica, this next time around, if we endorse you, your ability to get even additional $1,000 to $2,000 boost in your fundraising goal. That's another component of it as well. So there's kind of a benefit to the borrower, there's a benefit to the trustee, there's some marketing opportunities for the trustee just on a global scale. So yeah, great question.
One thing I just want to share about the process was you have the private funding window, and I believe you have 15 days to get 15 people is what my experience was. And we actually, just because you kind of knew what we were doing going into it, was able to get those 15 people invested in 3 days. So it moved us really quickly through the process. And then even after getting those first 15 people and then having to fundraise the additional amount, we were really fortunate because it is, like, as Caitlin said, it's not a loan. That was one of the reasons I didn't do some of these other programs, is I wasn't quite comfortable to start a business with a donation. So with this process, we are giving back. And then a lot of the people that were that did end up contributing or lending were excited that they could reuse those funds, that $25 or whatever it was, and help other people get their business started too. So it's a neat way to do it. And I've been following up with everything on my side too, because, you know, I have grand intentions of continue to pass it on and being a lender as well.
Would it be helpful really quick if I screen share and show you the website and maybe even show you where the trustee is located on the page so you can see what a lender profile looks like?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah, that
great.
sounds good. And then how does the matching work? I noticed on the website that like Bank of America is offering matching. Can anyone kind of do that? Like, could an organization, a municipality, like do that kind of thing?
Great question. Here's a good plug for this. We do not currently have a matching partner established. A lot of communities will have, for example, I was talking to the Walton Foundation, Walmart, in Fayetteville, their location, they actually match every dollar that goes in. So $25, they match it 1-to-1. Really helps speed up the fundraising process, provides that like community, that community support. So we're talking to a few different institutions right now about becoming that like major match partner for the entire state of Iowa. If you know of somebody, it's a pretty great level of exposure. Obviously, very focused on supporting women-owned, minority-owned, lower-income entrepreneurs, which is super important. And the access to capital front right now is a big piece of the conversation statewide. So there's a lot of different benefits there. We, the larger match partners, Bank of America, for example, that matches everyone on the site, is a partner of Kiva. So Kiva also has, similar to like sponsorships for different organizations, as a nonprofit, as a foundation, they have these sponsor partners that will occasionally say, hey, we're going to support Black-owned businesses the next 2 days with a 2-to-1 match. And all of a sudden it'll appear on the site, and it's a really awesome boost for any businesses that might qualify. There was one last week, and we actually fundraised the rest of 10As because of a 3-to-1 match for like women-owned business. So really cool stuff, and other factors that kind of work into this platform that are really unique and kind of provide little bits of excitement here and there. So yep, if you know of someone in your communities, wherever you guys are coming from, that would be interested in this matching relationship, we're kind of establishing a few different ways of doing that and engaging with that process. So reach out to me if you're interested, and I'll walk you through a couple of the options we're working on.
I'm curious about the barriers. Like, what are some of the barriers that people have to get over in order to get through this process? Because it feels like, I get it. It feels like they have to have, like any sort of grant program or something of that sort, they have to have a pretty or a well put together business plan and things of that sort. But what are some of those other barriers, especially for people that are looking for startup funds? Do they have to be established and generating revenue in order for them to receive these?
There's a nice graphic on our site that kind of outlines this, but there's a kind of a guide of, the 3 different buckets that you might fall into. And let's say it's someone that just has an idea phase, right? And they want to test run something. They're most likely not going to get approved for $15,000 because, again, setting them up for, potential, a lot of businesses fail. So the idea behind that is, okay, let's start with, 1 to 5,000. And we'll see where that gets you. And then again, if there's repayment success with that process, you can hop on and continue growing that business. So it's really designed to grow with businesses, but also if there's someone who's been in operation for 5 years and they're doing really well and they're just running into a roadblock, a lot of people during COVID, right? They can prove that, hey, I have the ability to make repayments. I am a qualified business. All of these different factors, the industry, makes sense for the Kiva platform, then they're going to have great success. So it's kind of that scale of like 1 to 15,000 early stage versus kind of, 5 to 10 year business. There are some though that are, like Alex, who has been approved for 15 and she's only been in operation for a little over a year. She just has had great success with the product and is really at this point where she wants to scale drastically. And so right in her distribution costs were kind of where she was running into a roadblock with some funding. So again, looks different for everybody. I will say, you know, as I mentioned, there are like, I've talked to a couple just hemp-based businesses. Because we work with PayPal, we have to go by their policies. So you work directly with PayPal that's where the money is. After the fundraise, it's deposited into a PayPal account and you can access it that way, which Jessica, I think you said was a pretty swift process, which is nice.
It was, I think I completed when the fundraising ended or when the crowd lending ended, it was in there like 24 hours later. I was really surprised at how quickly it happened.
Yeah. So that's pretty slick because the PayPal partnership, they do have some regulations on like, again, gun sales, tobacco sales, you know, that sort of thing that are excluded. And then again, debt to income ratio. So if you are over 80%, there are some factors that, you know, you still might be approved for like $1,000. But if it's like near 100%, then truly, you know, your expenses are outweighing your income. And we just, again, want to make sure that we're then, as the provider of this service, linking you to different business resources, different partners to help you grow the business before you access this loan. So maybe you're just not at the right point in time. So that would exclude you if you're not able to make any sort of repayment. The other thing is, let's say you need to buy a storefront. Like this is not probably the right route for you. If you need $100,000, we're not really looking for, this isn't the right, this is kind of the first step on that financial ladder. And then also if you're exceeding the $200,000 income threshold per household, that also excludes you as well, because, you know, depending on the circumstance, those traditional lending options are more accessible to you. So, yep. Exceeding the household income, you know, different industries that don't apply, debt to income ratios. And then I would say just the stage of your business kind of helps you fall into one of the three buckets. So this is what the platform looks like. I've narrowed it down to North America, United States. Right now, there are 54 businesses in the US that are on the platform. Again, I was excited to show you we're going to onboard another, but we just had one. And the good thing is she fundraised like overnight and now is off the platform, but I was going to show you her profile. So this is kind of what it looks like, a glimpse of just businesses anywhere from Milwaukee to Philadelphia to Minneapolis. And, you know, there's multiple pages of it. Let's see, let's go to Tina here. This is what Tina's profile will look like. So she has a month remaining, so 30 days. This looks like she just hopped on and she's already kind of like really off to a good start. So she has 6,125 to go. And super easy, right? If you lend here, it will like add it to your basket. You can check out. And this is her story. This is, you know, more about how she's using the business loan. This is the business, and you can go to her website, what she's using the loan for, kind of a map of where she's located. Let's see if okay. And then this is the lender community. So has 71 lenders so far. Generally speaking, the average from their own respective communities is about 20 to 30% of the total. So that means if we have an Iowa-based business, 20 to 30% of the total fundraise will come from Iowa. That's what we're expecting, but we also have to really promote this and help lenders understand this process as well, because very familiar with it out in California, not as familiar out in Iowa. So also kind of some education around that side of things. But here's all the different lenders. There's also lending teams. So let's go back to the ICAD example. Let's say you guys want to just have your own team, right? You could each have an individual account, but let's say the whole staff wants to have an ICAD team. And you could have one person designated to contribute on all of your behalves. So just a kind of another mechanism for like getting a group of people. A lot of alumni groups will do that. And, you know, in a lot of cases, they want to support a very specific type of business. Maybe it is only Hispanic owned business, or maybe it, again, is women owned business. Maybe it's geographic region. It can look different for every team. And let's see, her loan length is 36 months. She got her repayment schedule, all of that information. She does have a trustee here, which is Centro Community Partners. And this is a little blip about why they are endorsing her. And then you can actually go visit the site of the trustee. So this is, again, just another credibility check and a fun way to showcase all the different supports that these business owners have. So yes, check it out, familiarize yourself, become a lender. We would love that, so that when the next Iowa Bar is up there, we have more support in our area. Let's see, I'm checking out the chat. Oh,
No, yeah, that's great. And also, I did want to just amplify in the chat. Jessica shared some links to for more information, and Caitlin, thanks for that. One of the things that we do too is just checking in on kind of a question back to for you is how can our community help? And so maybe Jessica, I'll go to you first, and then Caitlin. But that's just part of the process. What else can we do to help you and your business?
Honestly, for us, it's share to support. The more information that we get out there, the more people that are aware that we exist, the better. You can purchase the magazine, which is why I included all of those links. So purchasing the magazine, and there's a code in there to receive that 20% off, just to kind of get us going and started. This is our first print. We are actually looking for submissions for future ones as well. We're starting to pull together information for our spring 2021, or 2022 already, man. So for spring 2022, we're getting submissions for that. And then again, the weekly articles. We're looking for, we have a plan for 2022 for guest editors. So we're looking for, Midwest-based creatives in those areas of discipline that we talked about, because one thing is really neat is the cross-discipline aspect of it. So between the art and culture and design and film, photography, all those different areas. So, we have kind of the Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin area covered pretty well, getting into Minnesota, but the rest of the 12 Midwest states, the more connections, the better. And then again, that creatives community, join the creatives community, check it out. Let us know what you think. There's always, again, part of our process is room for improvement. We want to know what stories aren't being told and that we'd like to. The goal of this concept is that community over competition, and that there are ways to be a successful creative in the Midwest, and that there are many of us out there, and then kind of sharing their stories in their own words. Most of the time people self-submit, so that way they are able to kind of share the words and the images that they want to.
That's great. Thank you so much. Caitlin, how about you? What can the community do to support Kiva?
Great question. And I was just going to show you, it's fun to see, specifics from kind of your area. Andre Wright with Humanize My Hoodie, a lot of people are familiar with. There's really cool stories that link back to where we all reside and tie all of these creative communities together. And also, Jessica, just another piece. I know you mentioned about that soft touch. This is the softest magazine. I put it on the table as a coffee table book, and people pick it up and they don't want to put it down because it's something tactile about it. I love it. In terms of supporting Kiva, again, pretty new program. We need borrowers, we need lenders, we need entrepreneurial support organizations. So I've been trying to divide my time to get the word out across all three. I've got a lot of great partners across the state, kind of reaching out and linking their businesses in their area and sending direct referrals. That helps the most, because a lot of people will hear, for example, I'll go to a farmer's market or the Nubo City Market and the different events, and I'll walk around with a flyer and say 0 fees, 0 interest, and people think it's a sales pitch, right? They're grimy car salesman type feel, but really it is providing such value to these entrepreneurs. And so I think that if we can have individuals like all of you who are saying, hey, this is a reputable program, here are some success stories now that exist with this program in Iowa, I think that will really help get the word out. We're finding that those referrals are huge and are the best leads to really successful borrowers. And then on the lender side of things, all of you are potential lenders. So hop on, create a profile. I did drop the link in there, read some stories. I will maybe use this as a way to push out different borrowers that, might live near you, maybe in a 1MC newsletter or Facebook update in the future. We'll keep you guys informed if we have an Iowa borrower, so you guys can get on and support them. And so yes, lending, referring borrowers. And then if you're a part of an entrepreneurial support organization and want to be linked as a trustee, there's no financial commitment. It's a 5-minute fill out a form, takes 5 minutes. So a lot of different ways that probably reach in each of you individually in some way.